Hi, I'm Sarah and this is Ashley. We're agriculture students from UWS.
So we're currently at Parliament House in Canberra at the Crawford Fund conference for 2014.
My first question would be, what would you think is good attributes in agricultural graduates?
At its centre is an ability to think, and an ability to learn. I think that covers a whole lot of dimensions, of course, but at its essence, someone who has a sufficiently broad education and grounding, but that can actually think and solve problems. Someone who can communicate well, someone who can relate well across a whole range of people, but essentially someone who can actually think and problem solve is a really, from my point of view, a really key dimension.
Well, first of all, why do you think it's so important to make it an issue that young people get involved in agriculture, and then how do you think is the best way to go about doing it?
It's not a problem unique to Australia, I must say, and ACR works in around about 40 countries. There's no simple answer to how to make that more attractive, but we're starting to see a turnaround. We're starting to see enrolments come back up. We're starting to see the entry grades come back up for agriculture. And I think it's the appreciation that sort of the moral imperative about feeding the world, and recognise we're back in much of the same situation that the world faced around the Green Revolution and the sort of Malthusian challenge of feeding a growing population with diminishing resources. I think it's also recognising that agriculture is very much about new technologies. It's about new opportunities. It's not old school, and particularly the opportunity to travel internationally, to see parts of the world that otherwise you don't get the opportunity to work in high-tech industries. And it's not just production on a farm; it's the whole value chain as well, and the opportunities there. So I think that's being recognised, and I think it's once again a valid pursuit to be farming and feeding the world.
When I grew up, I was never taught about food. I was never taught about food, agriculture, or science in that aspect.
Yeah.
Do you think we as a country are doing enough to make kids realise that it is really important?
We're not. And Australia has one of the most urbanised populations in the world. I mean, 85% of our population lives in cities. Globally, more than half the people in the world now live in cities. And so the challenge is going to get greater as the world gets more urbanised and food production happens somewhere else. But pleasingly, we're starting to see urban agriculture coming back into the equation, and people wanting to grow community gardens in cities, developed and developing countries. So I think we'll see that start to shift a bit as well. But your answer was, are we doing enough to educate? No, we're not. There's always a challenge as to what to focus on, but I think the challenge of feeding the world is an enormous one, and we could do a lot more about raising the awareness and appreciation of where food comes from,
right.
Connecting people with farmers and understanding the complexities that farmers face, and that the agri-food system faces in getting food to our table as cheaply as we do, as safely as we do, and as reliably as we do.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks.